on the way to the coffee, I thought, okay, all the things that people said that bad about me, I have transformed it to become my strengths. Azlan, you're too energetic when you talk. You know, that person that I sent you the podcast, he said to me, this is all great. It's all word vomit. So I speak really quickly. I can articulate. I can get out of situations like, and then Azlan, your energy is too much. So a lot of these things are all my strengths. Azlan, you're too informal with your communications, humor. And so I listed all of them down. I think this was about 5 years ago. And I went, okay, how can I make this my own? Like, how can I, Azlan, you talk too much. And
your own persona.
Yeah. Like, bank on it, you know?
You know, it makes me, this is a really good point, because when people give you feedback, you have to be discerning, because that feedback will either be wrong, be dead on valuable, or a mix. And you have to, it's your responsibility not to miss out on whatever benefit that feedback has, or even how to receive it gracefully, even if it's wrong. We've touched on this before. Yeah. But, you know, this is a big skill, because you can't grow properly and you can't evolve meaningfully if you are wasting feedback or worshipping feedback blindly. You can't negate it. It can't be all bad and it can't be all good most of the time. So where is the discernment? Because I'll tell you what happens. People, including you and I, will give someone feedback, but we are only giving it based on our own value system and only what we notice, and we project an angle. Right? Which means that person may be very hypersensitive to communicating too much and being criticized, and maybe waffling even, maybe taking too long to get his point across. Right. And he's got a history of being embarrassed by not getting to the point quick enough.
Right.
So now he thinks he's doing you a favor, and maybe in part there is some value in it. Yeah. From a balanced perspective. He says word vomit. Now,
I find when people say bad things about me, they're highlighting my strength in a weird way, you know. So I always look at it and go, that's my strength. When enough people say it, like one example, I'm in a meeting, in a stand-up, talking, right? And people go, yeah, here Azlan goes again. You're not going to have a chance to talk in 10 minutes. You need to wait in 10 minutes, and then they laugh. And so I go, okay, so I like to talk. I can carry myself very well. And I go, okay, what's my strength? Podcast. Let's go.
Yeah.
So it becomes, you know? Yeah. And I go, that's my strength. And they tease you, you know, sarcastically. And I go, okay. But of course, I take action and I don't just continue being that way.
Yeah, gotcha.
You know, I'm nice. I'm okay, you go.
I want to ask you, what is underneath your ability to take feedback in such a meaningful, empowering way like that? What is driving you underneath to have that power?
I believe the driving factor, the sponsoring thought, I call it, is that I believe inherently that everyone is good, you know. And so when they say something, I know they don't necessarily mean it from a bad place, but they don't know how to communicate. I don't know. I don't feel like that person is trying to.
Azlan, isn't that powerful? Like, imagine seeing the world where people just want to be good. They may struggle to be good,
everybody
but they want to be good. And then when you see them competing in a meeting or, you know, struggling, you see them on a journey of they just want to matter. And instead of you competing and trying to matter more than them because you're worried about you mattering, you actually get creative and help them matter in the meeting. It's so beautiful and powerful.
I love how you know how to put all of these things into perspective. It's a skill. Why did you ask me that, by the way? Why was that? Why?
Because it's you answered it, but there's something that makes that possible, that it should be acknowledged.
Right.
And then I didn't actually expect you to say, I see the goodness in people. I expected you to say, I think I've settled into my self-worth. So I feel like I'm more present in what feedback can I use and make it relevant, rather than get triggered of thinking, oh, bad feedback, I'm not that worthy.
Yeah.
Maybe that's probably still a factor.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
You feel more solid in yourself with self-worth. Sure. But I really like the fact that instead of me just saying, oh, is this it? I asked you the question and then you revealed something else that I'm so glad you revealed, which is seeing people with more compassion, more clarity, and then seeing opportunity rather than threats. So powerful.
I'm a feedback junkie now because of it. No, I really, even with our podcast, I put our podcast on Reddit to say there's this Reddit channel to talk about feedback, and now I'm hungry for feedback.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
I've never been like that. Like now I know, like I just want more feedback because that person who says disorienting, I'm like more. I want more of this stuff.
Is that where that came from?
No,
Reddit?
it came from our YouTube channel.
Oh yeah.
And I went, oh, this is cool. And I said, okay, why? And so I try to understand. So the more people give me feedback, the constructive ones, and I go, oh, and then you level up because you don't see what they see. So I'm really hungry now. I'm hungry for feedback. So now I ask my leaders as well. So do you have any feedback for me? You know, feedback because I want to know what else they see that I don't see, and I like it now. I'm in this weird place now where I look at value and feedback and
And you know what's interesting? We're afraid to give feedback.
Yeah, we spoke about this in great detail about how we.
So you know when you ask for feedback, people will interpret that as
negative.
It's negative, but they want to be positive. So they end up going, oh, no, it's all good. Or they might only pick what's good because they just don't want the confrontation because they're hypersensitive to being criticized themselves.
Yes.
So the dilemma is creating a safe place for people to give you feedback because they know you just love it all.
Right. How do I get to a point though to tell my managers that, hey man, I'm okay? You're right, because every time I ask them for feedback, they're like, no, Azlan, you're doing great.
Yeah, exactly. I think you have to build a bridge. You're on a timeline. You've been on a timeline of feedback is bad because you were so hard on yourself for so long.
Yeah.
They know that you're very self-motivated. So they don't want to tamper with the self-motivated dude.
Mm-hmm.
And by giving feedback, they see you used to get deflated. Yes, you used to bounce back, but you probably got deflated because you were so hard on yourself. You have to build a bridge.
That's fair.
To get them to the other side. So you got to say to them, hey, I've done a lot of growing in the last few months. And suddenly I found myself hungry for feedback, even negative, because I no longer associate it with my identity and my worth. And so I would love you to step up and test me on that. Please have the courage with me by giving me specific constructive feedback, because I just love grabbing insights from people I trust and respect to just continue leveling up.
Yeah, and then I thought about the value exchange as well, and I want to do the best for my team so that they get the most out of me, and then we win. Because I feel like when you get demoralized when you're not feeling like you're providing value, and I'm the kind of guy that I love providing value, and I love to be challenged to provide value. But if everybody thinks, just leave it and let's see what happens, and there's just no challenge, and so you're right. It comes to that as well, like providing that, creating that bridge, letting them understand you, and making it a win-win. Like it's a win for my team to give Azlan constructive feedback because he's going to provide more value, and he's fueled by that, so he's going to win too.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way to get in the habit of when you ask for feedback, you give examples of a recent benefit of someone giving you a negative feedback, so they go, oh my gosh, you're okay with this sort of criticism,
right?
I think it'd be nice to start. That's part of the bridge. You're modeling them visualizing you differently because of you are enrolling them on the timeline that you're on from the benefits you're getting from the recent feedback that's negative.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. That's a good idea. I like that. Starting off with a real life example and then telling them a bit about my growth and then seeing how we go from there. But I think I can start with my manager, who's probably watching this.
Go hard.
Go ahead.
But let's be compassionate here. when we are in flow, strong, we can handle it. But sometimes we have off days
Yes.
where we feel vulnerable.
That's a good point.
And we get disappointed because we let even constructive, relevant, negative feedback kind of affect us in a way that's not productive. And I think we need to just own that part of being human and being a work in progress and not present as if I'm now a feedback ingesting freight train, you know, bulletproof, shoot those criticism bullets and watch me, you know.
There's some off days, you're right.
Yeah, like, look, if you catch me on an off day where I don't seem to be taking the criticism, it's an off day. And I've learned not to let those off days hold me back and low too long anyway. So we just roll with that. And we need to see other people in the same way. Because if someone says, I love your approach to feedback, I now want the same thing. And then you go to give it to them and they're having an off day and they're not accepting it. You go, oh, what's this crap? You know, it's, we just gotta manage what's real in the moment.
Yeah.
And be informed versus projecting what should be there and wondering why it's misfiring.
Can you just thought of another thing where you were saying that? What if the person's feedback is backwards? So, for example, they might say, Azlan, you're too driven. You need to slow down. You can't do podcasts. You can't do your career. You can't be a good father. You got to slow down. Can I then say, like, how do we set the scene to say, okay, you might give me feedback, but I might not accept all of it because it might go against my values. Or, like, you know, like, because they will say, oh, I gave Azlan this feedback and he's not acted on it. He's still driving hard. He's still going hard at life. You know, like, he's still winning. He needs to lose. You know, like, what is he doing? But you know, that's an extreme.
Yeah.
But in their mind, Azlan needs to shut up. But for me, I'm like, I need to talk with purpose, you know, go further, you know, than just word vomit, you know, like, so.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That's hard because somebody will go, I'm not going to give him feedback anymore because it's not listened. He's still going, he's still winning. Then what?
Okay.
I mean, do you do that? Do you set the scene and go, hey, by the way, I might accept it or I might not? Like, that's a bit weird, isn't it?
I don't put pressure on myself to need them to know whether I'm going to accept it or not in a hurry. Sorry. I do communicate at the time. Look, if someone says something like that to me, I go, I tune into their intention, right? You have to know their intention because then what you do is you address their intention. And in this instance, what is that person's intention telling you this? They're worried about you. They're worried about, will you crash?
Burnout.
Yeah. Have you burnt out in the past?
I don't know.
Okay, what is burnout?
No, because, no, because I always go hard at work, but then at 4 o'clock I feel sad. And then so I thought maybe that's the sign of burnout.
Baby, you feel sad.
I tell my wife I feel
depressed. Is this how you drive?
Yeah,
I'm sad. No, I think that's a lull because you were on a high, do you think?
Yeah.
Or adrenaline or something,
Correct.
And then you crash from the adrenaline.
So I don't know what burnout.
I see what you mean. No, that's a lull. That's a crash, temporary short-term crash.
Yeah.
What I mean by burnout is that you've just been pushing day after day, week after week, and then suddenly you have a bit of a breakdown where it's too much and it got to you, and then you lose your energy, you lose your motivation, and it's hard to get it back up again, and you flatline for a while and you have to rebuild. That's a burnout.